It's fondant day or day 3, but technically it's day 4 since I skipped working yesterday. My back was genuinely still giving me issues and I just opted to rest. I told myself I have enough time to work, so I just opted to rest. So since I had done everything in advance, I only needed to cover the cakes in fondant, and lucky for me, all my cakes were being covered in white fondant, so I was not really stressed about how much time I would need, since when you're not doing colored fondant, it's much easier in my opinion, because colored fondant needs time for the colors to mature and whatnot. And as you can see, while doing the first cake, I definitely made a mistake. You can say I steamed my fondant a little bit, not my fondant, my ganache a little bit too much, and hence the mess that you can see over there. But I will explain how I normally tidy up or clean up my fondant once I do that. But my initial plan when I was starting on this wedding cake is work for 5 days, Monday till Friday. And for fondant day, I had scheduled fondant day to be Wednesday and Thursday. But since in my head, my plan was, since the cakes are 8, I wanted to do the 4-inch and the 4/6-inch cakes on Wednesday. And then Thursday, I would do the 8, 10, 12-inch cakes. But since I had to take a break yesterday, I had told myself I would try my best to cover at least the 4-inch cake, the 4/6-inch cakes, and the 8-inch cake on today, on Thursday. And then if I'm not able to, I'd do the 10 and 12 on Friday morning. And that was initially my plan. So I told myself I'd start working at exactly 9 a.m. and I did start working at 9:04 a.m. So I set a timer for 3 hours to try my best to be done with the 5 cakes, the 4-inch and the 4/6-inch cakes, by noon, so that I could see how much more I can do until 3 p.m. But luckily, since this is all I had to do, I was able to do all the 4-inch, the 4/6-inch cakes, the 8-inch, and the 8-inch before noon. So I just opted to continue working. So I did the 10-inch between noon and 1, then took a break for a little bit, and then did the 12-inch cake. So what else? When I'm doing the guest or the giveaway cakes, my plan was to cover them with fondant and then put them on their display board, sticking them with glucose syrup. That way, because once they're covered in fondant, I wouldn't be able to know which cake is which, unlike when they were covered in buttercream or ganache, because of where I'd place them in the fridge. But once they're covered in fondant, and then once I place them on the table, I might not remember which cake is which. So the best solution for me was to just put glucose syrup and put the marbled display board. That way, on delivery day, it's not for me to think which cake is which. I'm already aware, and it makes it easy for me and for my time. So how I'm cleaning my mess is, when it's not intentional mess, usually sometimes, as you've seen on some of these cakes, I steam my cakes a little bit too much. I'm a little bit over enthused, but it's because sometimes I've steamed my ganache, and then when I'm placing the fondant, it's not shikaing, like it's not working. So I end up having to start over with the fondant again. And once a fondant, pristine white fondant, once it gets any mess, you can't reuse it. I can't knead it again. It's going to the bin. So I'd rather steam my cake too much and have my fondant for sure stick than have to throw out the fondant. So how I clean is, I just take a bowl and pour distilled white vinegar on it, then use a paper towel to just clean up the mess. It has always worked, whether it's just ganache or like maybe food color. The only advice I'd give is just wipe, don't spread it around. I don't know if you try spreading it around, it would actually show, but I just usually wipe it as gently as I can, like assuming I'm removing a stain on any piece of clothing. I'd be removing a stain. You try your best not to spread the stain, you just try and clean where you can see the mess is. So that's the same concept I use. And the vinegar will evaporate, so it won't be tasted, it will not be visible, it will genuinely evaporate. And for the cakes that I'm stacking, except for the largest cake, which I place on its final board, the display board, the other cakes I'm just using a piece of tape, cello tape, to stick it to the board I'll use for transportation, and then just keep it with it. I know for sure I saw that when I helped the other baker with her wedding cake order. I saw that's how she'd placed her cakes, and since I saw her do that, like when she dropped them for me to decorate for her, I've always used that as my method. So, and it works. The tape doesn't, if it's good cello tape, because obviously there's some tape that doesn't work. It always works for me, so I just opt to use that every single time nowadays. And for this large cake, I honestly didn't think I'd be able to do it by myself. So I told her help while she was doing other work. If I'm completely unable, I would call her, but luckily, I don't know if I'm stronger now or it's because I keep giving myself pep talks when I'm starting on any job. I was able to do it without asking for help, but at least I had made her aware that I might call her for help. But she was very impressed and surprised that I didn't actually ask for help. But in my head, I was also for sure telling myself, you have to do this, because what happens if you continue relying on help and then one day you won't have the help? Will you not work? So thinking back now, it might not be the smartest pep talk, but it worked and I was able to do it by myself. So this is how everything was done today, and I doweled and tidied up any of the seams that were visible, but I finished up everything that I needed to finish up by 3 p.m. Doweled and everything. This is how everything turned out by like 6 p.m. I don't remember really. And then see you tomorrow. Bye.